there's no such thing as atheism in the ancient world. Every culture came from a worship system. Everything that they did is based on how they worship that ancient God in that territory. So saying all to say this is what is happening. The chimera. The chimera was, especially in Egypt, you see those the pyramids and Giza and stuff, ain't nothing but chimeras. Right. Exactly what it is. It's a homemade cherubim. And it's happening again with CRISPR, but we get into that later on. But let's keep moving. So one thing, I was watching this dude, listening to this dude talk about Maxine. And one of the things that he brought out was, and I didn't realize this, so he was making claims that so you know, this is another thing that somebody broke out, which is pretty, I didn't realize this till he said it, and I was like, man, this thing is really like controlling your mind. Like you don't really sit and think about the little nuances that go on around you. Like for instance, do y'all know that now that COVID-19 is over? Been over. You realize that, right? COVID's done. It's been done. I ain't talking about. And they told you without telling you. I mean, for real, do y'all really realize? Did y'all know that there's no COVID-19? COVID-19 is done, over. That's the reason why they call it SARS-CoV-2. Deuce. 2. It's no longer COVID-19. COVID-19 is obliterated. Nobody has COVID-19. COVID-19 was done. So now they have SARS-CoV-2. Everybody that gets COVID now has SARS-CoV-2. Nobody has COVID-19. AKA the Delta variant. Right, with Lumba or whatever. Y'all didn't get the memo, it's over. They never stopped and told you, they just kept moving. So you sitting there thinking, oh man, it's still going around. This is not, what we dealing right now is not COVID-19. That's over. So what's happening is these variants is coming out of synthesizing different strains. And so one thing that he was talking about is that, and this I'm just reading what he said, the synthesis of, listen, chimeric novel SARS-CoV. Chimeric. SARS-CoV. The current variants and also this injection are chimeric. Chimeric. You say, man, you're making this up. Science. Chimeric spike mRNA vaccine protects against SARS-CoV virus challenged in mice. So when you look at it, like, what is that? It's a fancy way of saying the same thing. How do we know this? So severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus, is the third coronavirus that's emerged as a serious human pathogen in the last 20 years. Treatment strategies that are broadly protective against current and future SARS-like coronaviruses are needed. Martinez et al. Takes on this challenge by developing vaccines based on chimeras of viral spike proteins. Chimeras. Let's go down to the abstract. The emergence of the severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS-CoV, the original one, which is done, in 2003, and SARS-CoV-2 in 2019, highlights the need to develop the universal vaccines, strategize against the border of the Saber-Coris virus. So this virus you're seeing right here, right? A subgenus using chimeric spike designs. So there's an add vector to it. Let's keep going. So you're like, man, where they getting this stuff from? Isaiah 13, 19 to 21. 21 and 22. Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be when Allur overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Verse 21. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and the house shall be full of doleful creatures. The owl shall dwell there, and the satyr. You know what a satyr is? A chimera. Satyr shall dance there. Another scripture says it'll be the habitation for every unclean ruach and hateful bird. Yeah, you seen them movies? Pan. You know people say, I'm Pan this, or all they little terms? Pan. Pan was their god. He was a satyr. That's what Pan is. He's a satyr. He's a Nephilim. That's all it is. Wild beasts of the islands shall cry in desolate places, and dragons in their pleasant places. These are all the things that are going to happen in the midst of Babylon. It's going to be a corruption. So shall it be in those days like it was in the days of Noah. In the days of Noah, he was the only one that was pure in his genealogy. He didn't know nothing about Maxine. But the Nephilim was out there offering it, though. They was doing that all over the place. I want to try to pull Enoch and show you some of the things that was going on, but I didn't have time to do that. But let's keep going. So let's look at some more of these chimeras. Revelations 9, 3, 7 through 8. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon their rest, and to them was given power that the scorpions of the earth have power. Their shapes were like unto horses. This is how chimeras are made. Prepared unto the battle, their heads were crowns of gold. Their faces were faces of men. They had hair like the hair of women, and their teeth were like the teeth of lions. So that's a chimera. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and they were stings in their tails, and their powers to hurt men 5 months. So this is the thing what people get. There's a universe, then there's a microverse. I don't know if y'all know this, right? Y'all know this? There's a universe, and then there's a microverse. So the microverse has all types of creatures. All types. Most of your sicknesses come from things that's in the microverse. Yeah, the only way you're going to see it is with a microscope. Some stuff you can't even see with a microscope. Because, I mean, you go down to quantum mechanics, but that's a whole other thing. But, yeah, from 1,000 times magnification. You need some kind of like high-powered, super-powered microscope to see what's really going on. So there are creatures in the microverse. There's diseases that contains living organisms. Those things are also beasts. A beast can come and tear you, or you can receive a beast in your body that will destroy you from the inside out. Let's keep going. Where the worm dieth not. So it's interesting. Maureen Mallow was talking about this the other day. So it's this thing called the Hydra. Anybody seen the Marvel movies? Hell Hydra. Right? What's his name? Red Skull. The whole Marvel universe has had this underlying like shadow government that's really the Hydra. They say you cut off one, 2 more grow back. Where they get that from is because in history, there's this chimera named the Hydra. Like in ancient history. Most cultures talked about it. Especially cultures like near Africa. Most of them cultures. They talk about this thing called the Hydra. The Hydra was this serpent-type creature that every time you would cut off a head, it would grow 2 back. Right? So it's interesting. Because right now they have this thing in real life called, in the microverse, not really completely microverse, you can see it, right? But extremely small, called the Hydra. It looks similar to what I just showed you that's in the vaccine. The thing about the Hydra is that it's immortal. It don't die. You can cut it in half, it'll grow again. You chop off an arm, it'll grow 2 more heads. Or 2 more arms. Drop off a head, it don't matter how you chop it. Whatever part of that Hydra, it grows another part to it. It can mate through, it can mate, it don't have to mate. It's also asexual. So it can have no mates and it can just reproduce itself. Like just bam. And continue to replicate itself. The Hydra. So the concept of this thing or something like that is not foreign. It's even in science, that thing actually exists. Called the Hydra. So it says that they worm dieth and they fires what? What if that's what's going on? What if people receiving worms that are really parasites that's going to control their minds in the time to come that they can never get rid of? Worms that are not even made from organic material. Creatures that you can't even really fathom. Aluminum-based life form. What the heck is that? Nobody even know what that is. The scientists was confused. Did it come down? Did it come up from the sea? Or did it was created by the fallen? Right, where they spread over top. Where this thing coming from?